They called her Barren like it was a curse etched into her skin, a word whispered behind mud walls and shouted without shame by the woman who should have protected her, her mother-in-law, whose eyes were colder than the desert nights and whose heart had long calcified into cruelty, because in that harsh frontier settlement a woman's worth was measured only by the children she bore, and when 3 years passed without a cry in the house, patience turned into poison, love into resentment, and blame found its easiest target in the quiet young woman who still rose before dawn, kneaded bread with aching hands, and prayed silently while being watched like livestock, until one evening she was summoned not to the hearth but to the courtyard where strangers waited with silver coins and appraising stares, and before she could understand what was happening, she realized her fate had been decided without her voice, sold under the lie of sending her away for everyone's good, traded like a broken possession to a passing Apache trader rumored to be feared, desired, and untouchable, a man whose name was spoken with awe and terror because he had gold, land, and strength but had never taken a wife despite many offers, and as she was pushed forward with only a bundle of clothes and her dignity stripped away, her husband stood silent, eyes lowered, choosing cowardice over her. And in that moment something inside her shattered so completely that even tears refused to come. The journey to the Apache lands felt endless, the land stretching wide and merciless, every step a reminder that she was unwanted, yet the man who rode ahead of her never once looked back with cruelty, never spoke harshly, never touched her without permission, and when they finally reached his settlement, she expected chains or humiliation, but instead was given water, food, and a space by the fire. And that night she heard women whispering not about her barrenness but about why he had chosen her when women of beauty, status, and fertility had begged for his hand, because this Apache man, hardened by loss and sharpened by wisdom, saw something others had been too blind to notice, a strength born from endurance, a quiet dignity that survived humiliation, a soul that had not grown bitter despite being broken. Days turned into weeks, and she learned that he had lost his first family to disease years ago, had buried a child with his own hands, and had sworn never to treat a woman as property again. Which was why he rejected those who wanted his wealth but not his wounds, and slowly, without grand gestures, trust grew between them, built in shared silences, in the way he listened when she spoke, in how he defended her from cruel whispers, and for the first time since her marriage she was not measured by what her body failed to do but by who she was, and when the settlement was attacked and she risked her life to save a wounded child, something shifted irrevocably, not only in how the people saw her, but in how she saw herself, and when sickness later took her down, fever burning her thin frame, it was he who stayed by her side night after night, refusing to let her be taken by death the way his child once had been, and months later, when she realized her body had begun to change, fear gripped her harder than hope because she had been called barren for so long that joy felt like betrayal. But when the truth could no longer be denied and life quickened inside her, the Apache man did not shout or boast, he simply closed his eyes and wept, not for pride but for healing, for the proof that broken things are not useless, and when word spread back to the settlement that the woman once sold like cattle now walked proudly with a child at her side and another on the way, dressed not in rags but in respect, the same mother-in-law who had spat the word barren dared to come begging. But the woman who returned was no longer the girl who left, and she did not shout or curse, she simply turned away, choosing peace over revenge, love over bitterness, and as the Apache man stood beside her, hand steady on her shoulder, it became clear to everyone watching that fate had not punished her, it had rescued her, and if this story of rejection turning into destiny, of a woman discarded becoming chosen, of quiet love outlasting cruelty moved something inside you, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that sometimes the people who are thrown away are the ones the universe has been saving for something greater.